And we're live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Hopefully everybody had themselves a wonderful Monday night. We're here to talk about the Tuesday slate, 7-gamer tonight on the 9th of February. Let's get after it, my man, and figure out how we can get that money away from other DraftKings players tonight.
Yeah, let's get it. We got, as always, another interesting slate to break down.
NBA DFS is pretty much interesting every single day, and now you throw in COVID, and it gets even more interesting. See my Bucks last night with the Drew Holiday news literally at the last minute.
No doubt about it.
All right, guys. So as you can tell by the cover, we're going right back to a 5-pack favorite for the year. Before we get into that, though, again, we talked about this last week. We'll bring it up a couple more times. We want to introduce a new partnership that we have with the boys over at Jazz Sportsbook. I know a lot of you guys listening to this like to bet on sports. I'm pretty sure somebody else talking right here, which isn't me currently, also likes to bet on sports. We are going to do a video later today talking about, I think we'll each pick one of our favorites and talk about a sports betting angle that we like for the day, a game within the NBA that we think you guys can take advantage of. If you have never bet on sports and want to give it a whirl, we would appreciate you guys giving your try over at Jazz. If you do and you want to try out a new sports book, we would appreciate you guys giving a look over at Jazz. The name of our promo code is 5PAC. If you do sign up and you use our promo code, after you make your first deposit, please let me know, and I'll give you a free month over at the 5-pack. And one of our current customers, Antonio, signed up with them the other day, and he hit him up for his deposit bonus for the Super Bowl bet. Told me the customer service was excellent. They were very, very nice. So it's good to hear that when some of our customers are signing up, they're treating them very well over there because the customer service does matter.
Yeah, it matters a lot. And again, after talking with them multiple times, we felt good about it, and I'm glad to hear it's coming to life.
Yep, promotional code is 5PAC. Otherwise, I'm going to toss a link down in the comments section if you want to use that. And because it's Tuesday, guys, it is 2 for Tuesday at the 5-pack, which means you buy one of those day passes and you get tomorrow on the house. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. Thumbs up is always appreciated. You guys help us out more than you realize when you do that. Let's bust out some of our favorite plays of the day, including cover boy Jeremy Grant. Obviously, this is not the first and probably not the last time you guys are going to hear us reference Jeremy Grant this year. And one of my favorite points about him today is, so when I was watching the Lakers play the Pistons on, my Lord, now, was that Saturday night?
Yeah.
Sunday night. Saturday night. Yeah, Sunday was the Super Bowl. So it was Saturday night. And I kind of felt the Lakers would play really well there after the Pistons had embarrassed them into Detroit. And the Pistons announcers were talking about that, Detroit's not a good basketball team. Everybody knows that. And I think they're 5-19. They don't have a good record. But they have played really well against good opponents this year. They beat the Lakers. They beat Boston and then played them competitive again. They kept both games against the Jazz relevant. They played Milwaukee 3 times. And even though they lost all 3, they stayed relatively close in 2 of those. They've beaten some good teams this year, and they play well against good opponents. Now, they don't win a lot of those games. But as a point that we've discussed many times on this show, I don't really care that they win. I just want this game to be competitive for 4 quarters. So enter their best player, Jeremy Grant, at only $7K. He darn near averages GPP value on this price tag. We've seen him, even with some of his off games that he had for a little bit before playing well again, he still sticks within the upper 20s normally. He's got a decent floor with nice upside on this price. Now, he is projected to be chalky today for good reason. He's playing one of the worst defenses in the league. No Derrick Rose. He's been back to playing well. You can run him at the 3 or the 4 at a very affordable price tag for what he offers. So expect him to be popular today for good reason. But I do give the Pistons credit. I don't think they're going to win this game, but I think they keep it within 10 points, which is all that I care about, so that we know that we're going to get a full allotment of our stars minutes.
Yeah, listen, we all know Detroit is a bad team. They're one of the worst teams in the league talent-wise. But it's not like the Nets have been beaten up by that many teams recently. Even when they are winning, it's not like they're winning by that many points. You've got a guy in Grant who's averaging over 40 DK points a game, priced at $7K. Again, you mentioned it. He's a guy we've talked about a bunch this year. It's a really good spot for him. Derrick Rose is gone. DeLon Wright might be out. Dennis Smith Jr. might not be playing yet. I mean, the ball is going to be in his hands a ton in this spot, I got to imagine.
So there's part of me, I'm going to say this. I don't care if Wright plays or not, because for me, if he's out, that could be good for Grant, right? Higher usage, more shots and stuff like that. But if he's in, this game could be more offensive oriented because it adds another better player for the Pistons that this game could turn into a little bit more of a track meet. So I think you could make really good cases for DeLon Wright being in and being out, which then brings me to the conclusion. I'm not sure if I care one way or the other because I don't know which side I line on. I like both sides for both reasons.
For sure. I'd rather have him out, but I get it.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, your boy DeMar DeRozan. I think the biggest point here is, well, one, he's playing better again. He had a couple off games, but now he's got 44 plus in 3 straight. But after last night's monster performance, Murray probably gets a little bit more love than DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, Murray coming off he had 25 steals last night. I think Murray gets a ton of love here because of the game last night, also because he's $1,000 cheaper than DeRozan. We've seen Murray on back-to-back struggle. Pop is very hesitant to give him monster minutes, 2 nights in a row. Fact of the matter is this guy has kind of been an injury problem for much of his career. Finally is playing healthy. They're just not going to push him like he will other guys. One of those other guys being DeRozan. Still the best player on the Spurs. Again, you mentioned it, playing really well right now. Hasn't even gotten a block or a steal in the past few games, and is still 40 plus in all of them. I like this spot for San Antonio. We just saw this game last night. Point that we talked about on our members only video. We don't love these games where the teams just played the night before, and I don't want to game stack this game or anything like that. But at 7,800, pivoting off of what I expect to get chalky Murray, I like DeRozan a lot here. I think he walks into value in all formats with decently high upside, assuming this game stays real competitive.
And when these back-to-back sets up like this, it's not that nobody succeeds, but you have to pick your spots. So we saw the Magic and the Bulls run back-to-backs the other day, and everybody went to Vooch because, well, quite frankly, he was amazing in that first game. Well, what happened in that game? It was a blowout. Vucevic played all right, but he only played 24 minutes and he lost his run. Similar types of things can happen. But the guy that I did like a lot in that game was Zach LaVine. Why? Because he started balling in the fourth quarter and really got rolling. I don't dislike DeMar DeRozan in this game because if this game is more of a little bit of a slower half-court set, DeRozan's a half-court type of player.
No doubt about it.
All right, next up, Cole Anthony. So let's talk about the Orlando Magic. There's a few guys that are going to get some love on this slate. I think we know who the chalkiest of the guys is going to be. And then we got a sleeper we're going to talk about, but also our mutual favorite play today is going to be Cole Anthony. So for me, he works in any format. I think he is consistent enough for cash games, but also not a sleeper, but not overwhelming chalk. So if you're looking for a way to be just a smidge different in GPPs, Cole Anthony is viable. He's kind of a young guy, really starting to come into his own a little bit because of the loss of Markelle Fultz. He's been forced to kind of take a bigger role instantly. No Evan Fournier tonight, so another one of these guys you can run the offense through a little bit just isn't there, meaning Cole Anthony, is going to have to play a little bit of a bigger role again tonight. Look, we talked about Jeremy Grant and how bad the Nets defense is early on. We talked about the Wizards before. But right there with them, the Blazers defense is trash. Now, they have Derrick Jones Jr. back, so they have one good individual defender playing tonight. But other than that, they just don't have anybody. We love Damian Lillard. He's not an A-plus defender. Cantor in the middle is not a plus defender. They're just not a good defense, which is good for a point guard because not only is it better for him, it's better for his assist total because most of the other players on this team are not in very difficult matchups. He's got 28 plus in 7 to 10. He's rested after 2 days off and coming off a bad loss where the Magic played terrible.
Yeah, I like him a lot here, under 6K. Again, mentioned it, no Fournier, no Aaron Gordon. Ball is going to be in his hands a ton. In a game I like a lot, I think Orlando's in a really good spot to get a win here against a Portland team that's coming off a real long road trip that's not playing that well. I think this game is competitive all over. And Anthony at 5,900 is a guy, like you mentioned, I love the way you put it. I think he's really viable in all formats. He's solid enough in cash games, and he's off the beaten path enough for you to get excited about him in tournaments.
If I had to just guess, I don't know, 15% owned tonight?
Exactly what I was going to say.
It could be as high as 25. It could be as low as 8. But I'm just, that's my guess.
I would take 8 over 25.
Okay. The only reason, I don't think he would get a lot of love, period, except for the fact that we're not exactly dropping news on people that the Blazers defense isn't very good.
Sure. No doubt about that.
All right, next up. So the other guy in this game that I'd look for more of a long shot is going to be Terrence Ross. So if you're a game log watcher, which all of us do to some extent, he's a tough roster. He's played like hot garbage. He's still going to continue to come off the bench, even with Evan Fournier out tonight. He's usually like their spark plug, like a inferior version of, like a Lou Williams type. So he's got his games, and then he's got extended periods where he's not very good. Every opportunity, he's not very good again tonight. He's had some bad games recently. He did shoot 13 times the other day. I think he made 5 of them, if my memory serves me correctly. He's not a guy that usually hits up monster peripherals. However, he does have enough games in his career where when that 3-ball starts falling and he gets more assertive and aggressive, it does then translate to more assists, more steals, and things like that. They have no Evan Fournier. They have no Aaron Gordon. They're going to need to get offense from people not just named Cole Anthony and Nikola Vucevic. And Terrence Ross is a guy that is capable of that. So, again, I don't feel very safe with him. I won't play him in my cash games. However, if I were to run, say, 150 GPP lines tonight, I might want about 15 Terrence Rosses. Why? Because he's very capable of like a 40 spot right here. We haven't seen a lot of that this year, but we've seen the full career of Terrence Ross and know that he does have monster games. He's affordable at 5K. There's a good opportunity too. He could just be decent tonight and not ruin your lineup. But the real upside is there. And while I don't think you're getting him at 1% or anything like that, this is another guy like Cole Anthony. Like I struggle to see him being higher than 15 or 20%.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he just hasn't played well enough to warrant more ownership than that. I mean, ultimately, if he's like higher than 20, 25%, maybe that's the case where you look to like get off of him. However, I think it's the opposite of that, where he comes in under 10%, a guy with real upside, as you mentioned multiple times. From Portland, which we're not using him because of that, but certainly doesn't hurt. It's a guy that's played in the Eastern Conference his entire career. Had some real good games against Portland in Portland. You couldn't really find a better spot for him against this Trailblazers team, as you've mentioned. Really, really lacking on their defensive efficiency right now. Missing a ton of bodies. First game back from a long road trip. I think Ross has big-time upside here, and I'm excited about it.
He is one of the streakiest players in the NBA. Yeah. There are times where he looks like a borderline all-star, and then there are other you'll watch him for games in a row, and you're like, why is this guy even getting playing time? So he's one of those guys that's an enigma. You try to get on him a game early. Guessing which game that is going to be is never easy, but if I'm going to, I'd rather do it against a bad defense.
Hell yeah.
All right, next up, Derrick Favors. So the first bullet point I put up here is quietly has 20 plus in 5 straight. And I say quietly because, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like if I didn't notice it, most people didn't. And I did not notice that he had 20 plus in 5 straight.
And that's the thing, right? Like, there isn't a ton of value guys on this slate you feel comfortable with, or even that I feel comfortable with recommending as a long shot. However, Favors under 4K, you mentioned it, 20 plus in 5 straight. He's not a guy that's going to get you big time upside, but he's also a guy that he's going to get his minutes. When he's out there, he puts up decent scores. I expect him to get around 20 DK points again tonight because that's what he's been doing. Again, I expect this game to be competitive. On the off chance Gobert does get into foul trouble, you could maybe expect a little bit more from him. I haven't used this term in a while. I try to save it, but he is a cog in the machine, man. Like, if you look at the definition of a cog in the machine, you see Favors at 3,900 on a slate without a ton of value.
Yeah, as of yet, we know things change, but yeah, the more value that comes out, the lower owned he is, and he's already going to be low owned. I was watching the Jazz play the other day, and the Jazz announcers made a statement, and that kind of stuck in my mind about him that I've been thinking about recently. They said Derrick Favors would be the starting center on most teams in the NBA, and I'm like, ooh, well, because most is what? Just over half? I'm like, I tried to think about it, and I think he would be about 50% of teams-ish, right? Like, he's not going to start over Vucevic, but he would probably, not start over Capella. He might start for, like, the Lakers.
Maybe. I mean, I get the argument. He's talented. He is definitely talented enough. He's a guy that's been kind of an enigma throughout his career, just in the sense that he never really showed the upside of being like a top, 3rd or 4th overall pick, but he's been damn consistent. I mean, his career has been long. Seems to like playing in Utah. And again, like, on a lot of slates, and I know you'll agree with this point, like when we've got those slates with multiple guys out and there's, multiple guys under 4K that you can look at to provide upside, like, he wouldn't be in play on those slates. But tonight is not that slate.
As of now, it's 11:53 Central. We know things are going to change, but the more news that comes out like that, the lower owned he's going to be. And sometimes those guys are awesome. Other times they bust big time. At least he feels like he's somebody you could depend on. Here's a question for you. Going back to, like, where would he start?
Okay.
Would he start over? Is he better than DeAndre Jordan right now?
That's a good question. They definitely do different things. That's a good question.
He's a former net as well too, so that's kind of what got me to that one.
My lean is DeAndre Jordan, but I don't have any really good basis to that. I'll say this: we haven't seen Favors play like bigger minutes like at all, like recently at all.
No, they don't. They really don't play him big. Even if Rudy Gobert were to get hurt on the first play of the game, I don't think Favors would play more than say 27 minutes.
Agreed. Like he is not playing over 30 minutes, no matter what. He's just not.
Unless they also because Boston doesn't have like a forceful big man. I mean, I guess that's another question. Like Derrick Favors or Tristan Thompson.
Tristan Thompson, but I think it's a legit question.
Yeah, so I mean that's where kind of like when the Jazz announcers brought that up the other day, I was like, ooh. And then I really started thinking about it. I'm like, you can knock out the Joel Embiids and Nikola Jokic's and things like that. Clearly, he's nowhere close to those guys like league, but like, could he start over Marc Gasol? I'm like, I think Favors is better than Marc Gasol right now.
I get that. I mean, I think that is, there's obviously a bunch of centers that you're not even considering, but he is on that next tier where he's solid, if not spectacular, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I brought up the Nets and the Lakers because Marc Gasol and DeAndre Jordan, if we go back 6 years ago, these guys were really good, excellent defensive centers, but they lost their foot speed and they just do not have the same thing that they used to have. Like Marc Gasol legitimately looks like he's trying to jump out of quicksand.
You know who else doesn't have the foot speed anymore is DeMarcus Cousins.
No, he doesn't. He can shoot though a little bit. He still has something.
Crafty. He's so crafty. He's just so good offensively. I mean, we've said that for years, like how good offensively he is.
Yeah, DeMarcus Cousins is one of those guys that, I know I've seen him dunk, but if I'm trying to actually remember him dunk a basketball in my life, I can't even think about one.
That's exactly what I'm thinking too right now.